Hello, welcome to the Lululoves Crochet Podcast, episode 25. My name is Emma and this is my podcast all about crochet and crafts and books and anything else I fancy talking about really. How are you all? I hope you're all well. It's been a long time coming, this podcast actually. So much has been going on. I'll explain all. But, obviously it's been summer as well, so my eldest daughter's was home from university, and we managed to take a lovely holiday abroad to Ibiza, which was bliss. And I also went camping with Lulu. We went to Camp Festival, which is held in the grounds of Lulworth Castle. We went for 3 days, we camped for 3 nights. We went with my friend and her 2 daughters. So that was really good fun, really exhausting, but the children loved it. So everyone's gone back to school and things are getting back to normal. So I will just crack on and show you the things that I have been making. There is not a lot, I will explain why. I've only got 2 things to show you really. So, which, is a bit poor for the amount of time that I haven't been on here, but I will just crack on really. Anyway, the first thing is this t-shirt, granny square t-shirt top that I made for Lulu. You'll have to excuse if you can hear my tummy rumbling. I don't know why it's doing that. I have just eaten. Anyway, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. It started off life as a cushion, but halfway through I realised, well, 1, it was probably a bit too pretty for a cushion, and 2, I don't need any more crochet cushions in my life. I have so many. So I decided to turn it into a little top for Lulu. It's just made of some joined squares. The only thing is I was making it with Aran cotton, and I was using, I think this is a Lily's Sugar and Cream, the joining yarn. If I show you, you can maybe see can you see? It's got flecks of pastels in it, so pretty. However, it's not the softest cotton yarn and it's quite heavy. So after I finished it, I thought there's no way that this can be a summer top for her because it's really thick. It's thick and it's going to be quite heavy on her for the summer. So hopefully she can wear it in the winter with, like a long sleeved top under it. I also need to finish off the neckline. I added some tiny little sleeves, and actually I don't know if you can tell, I ran out of this cotton and cream, so this row of sleeves I had to use a different cream. I think I managed to colour match it quite well, but it doesn't have those flecks in it. And then I just added a row of the pink. So I need to do something with the neck, but it fits quite well as it is, and I don't want to make it any tighter around her neck, so maybe I'll just leave it, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's the first item. Really, really pleased with it. It looks so pretty on her as well. I'd definitely wear that myself. So I used two balls of the Lily's, I think it's Sugar and Cream, and then these colours were Paint Box Cotton Aran. So I don't think there's much more to say about that. I just joined them as I went. Basically made a square and added some tiny little sleeves. So I was really pleased with that. I do still have some ends to sew in, obviously. I've done most of them. There's still a few in there, so I must get on and do that. But yeah, I really, really like that. I just love those colours. Of course, they're very summery colours, aren't they? Still be nice to wear. So that's the first item that I finished. The second item is completely finished, and that is I was sent a kit from We Are Knitters, and they emailed and asked if I'd like to try one of their kits. I've never tried anything from them before, so I was really excited. Anyway, it comes like this. Beautiful. And I picked the Christina Sweater. You get, with your kit, you get all the wool you need, and you can pick your colours, and then you get the pattern booklet, and the instructions are so clear. I didn't have any trouble with them at all. The pattern is got French, German, Spanish and Italian in there, as well as English. You also get a bunch of stickers. I love those. The only thing is, there aren't any that say about crochet. Yes, I like to knit. No, I'm not old. I am a knitter. I mean, well, I would have liked a little crochet one on there really, because I haven't done any knitting for ages. But I'll use them, they're cute. And then, what else is in here? Ooh. Oh yes, I forgot about that. You get a tiny little label to sew on your finished item. A set of darning needles. Well, they're just needles. I don't really need to see those. So, is there anything else in here? No. You also get, and I don't know where it is, one of their lovely crochet hooks. Let's have a look. Oh, here it is. There we go. Just one of their wooden, this project called for a 7mm. I do prefer to work with metal hooks. I just find that I can crochet faster with them, and I'm quite a slow crocheter as it is, but I thought I would use the hook that they sent, just to give the whole kit a fair trial really, and I really enjoyed working with it. I had no trouble at all with that. And then the wool, yeah, sorry, the most important bit is, where are we? The petite wool. This is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I said to my husband, oh, I'm actually feeling a bit nervous about filming a podcast. I haven't done it in such a long time. And he said, why are you nervous? Just sit up there and talk to yourself. I think the fact is I probably just shouldn't be in front of the camera. Anyway, it's 100% Peruvian wool. There we go. And I picked this beautiful cream colour, and it is a really lovely cream. It's I suppose it's slightly yellow cream, but not an offensive yellow cream. It's actually quite a true cream, I would say. And this yarn is just so soft. I mean, I'm quite sensitive to wool, but I don't think I'll have any trouble wearing this at all. And it's beautiful to work with. It's very soft. If you have a look. There we go, look how sort of soft and fluffy that is. The only trouble I did have was when I was seaming up the jumper. If I pulled a bit too tight on the yarn, it broke. It's pretty strong, but I think I must have been a bit aggressive with it. Anyway, they sent all the wool to make the jumper. I can't remember how many balls there were. They asked what size I would like, and I said a medium. I had a look at the measurements, and I normally wear medium, so. But when I did my gauge, and although I'm not the world's best swatcher, I've learned from experience to always swatch for garments. My gauge was out, so I ended up making the small size, and so I've got one ball of that beautiful yarn left, so I have to try and do something with that. Anyway, here's the jumper. It's so gorgeous. I would have put it on for you today, but it's still quite warm here in the UK, I think, and it's that weather where I go outside, I've got my cardigan on, I put my coat on, and within sort of 5 minutes I've overheated. Anyway, there it is. maybe I'll pop some pictures up. I did have a little photo shoot with myself the other day. It was very enjoyable. It's beautiful. It's very simple to make. It's got that lovely texture of those bobbles. It's not bobble stitch. I won't really tell you how they're made because that would be giving away the pattern details, but it's really beautiful. And it's not a cropped jumper, but it does sort of sit at the right length for me. No, I'm a bit short. I'm on the short side of life, and I often find jumpers are too long, and this one's not. It's perfect. So I really enjoyed making that. And to be honest with you, use a 7mm hook. It's chunky yarn. I could have easily made this up within a week, just crocheting in the evenings. But because I've been so busy, I've had to pick it up and put it down sort of over the past couple of months, really, which is a bit frustrating, but they're definitely really quick projects to make. So I'm really happy with that. I just can't wait to wear it. That's just the sort of jumper I like to wear, really. So that's that. I don't think there's anything else to say about it, really. It is a jumper that is seamed, and excuse me, I don't normally like seaming garments. I'm always worried about the symmetry and getting it wrong, so when I tend to make jumpers, I tend to crochet the sleeves on. But this one was seamed, and it was no trouble. I just laid it all out on the floor and just sat there and got it done. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. I don't think you can really see my seams too much. I've managed to crochet a lot of my own hair in there, so it's got my DNA in it now. Yeah, I really would recommend these kits, and I think, I mean, they are on the expensive side, I'm not going to lie, but I think they are good value for money if you can afford them. And I also think if you're buying for a crochet or a knitter, it's a perfect gift, really, because you think how much that would cost you to buy in a shop. I think they would make lovely gifts, and they come so beautifully packaged. Look at that, it's gorgeous. So I'm really pleased with that. Yeah, that's it, I think. Nothing else to say. Very simple pattern, very simple design. So it does say intermediate on the instructions. I suppose the hardest thing about that, because it really only uses two stitches. I think the hardest thing about these patterns is probably reading the pattern itself. And it was very easy to understand, but I think maybe when I'm not sure how these patterns are graded, but yeah, beautiful. Nice. That would be nice and quick. I mean, it wasn't for me, but then nothing ever is. And that is all I've got to show you in terms of crochet. I do have a really lovely gift that I was sent that I will get into in a minute. So feel free to switch off, if you don't want to listen to me ramble on about the books and the wool. I just thought that I would take a minute to explain why I haven't been podcasting and why I haven't been so active on Instagram or the blog. And it's really exciting. I feel quite nervous talking about it, really, because I think I've been working on it now for so long, I almost feel like it's not really real. But back in February, I was contacted by a book publisher. They asked if I would be interested in working with them on a book. They said they had seen my work and they thought that I would be a good fit for this particular book. And of course, initially I was just like blown away, like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. And then my second thought was, no, I can't do that. I can't do that at all. Anyway, they're really lovely. They're called Tuva. They are an international publisher. So they publish books in America and Europe, and they're based in Turkey. They've published a lot of craft books, and if you are a craft book hoarder like me, or crochet book hoarder, you will probably own some of their books already. I've got a couple here, I'll show you. Oh, so these are just two I grabbed out of my bookshelf this morning. So this one I have, this is Vintage Style Crochet Projects. I like that one. And then this one, I reviewed this one on the blog actually, probably a couple of years ago now. This is Home Decoration in Crochet. This is Tanya's book, and I really enjoyed this one as well. So yeah, I actually probably own about 4 or 5 of their books. So they were down in the London Book Fair and asked if I wanted to go down and have a meet with them. I couldn't get down there, but they were happy to continue talking to me over email. And we sort of went back and forth, and like I said, initially I thought I just can't do that. And I think part of the reason was, you know, I'm very careful these days about what I take on. I'm very protective of my mental health, really. You know, years ago when I was working on the column for Inside Crochet, which I loved, I was also doing lots of design work for lots of different magazines, knit and crochet magazines, and probably about 4 or 5 different titles. And I was saying yes to everything. Yes, 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 taking it all in. And sometimes they would, you know, it got to the point where they would just message me and say, can you make these in these colours and have it by next week? And of course, I felt like I had to say yes to everything because, you know, I was writing a column, and what happened is I got so overwhelmed that I started to doubt myself. I started to doubt my abilities, and consequently what I was making just wasn't reflecting me. I felt like I actually wasn't really even just designing these projects, you know, because a lot of the time they were stipulating yarn colours, and not the better magazines, but some of the other magazines, which notably I think a lot of them aren't even around anymore. But and you know, it wasn't their fault. It was my mindset. You know, I started to feel a real imposter syndrome coming on, and I started to feel like I can't do this. I'm not good enough. The work I'm creating is not good enough. And eventually, what happened is I just shut down. I stopped crocheting. I mean, I did crochet. I just stopped sharing, really. I think ultimately I stopped sharing what I was making. I stopped posting to Instagram. I stopped blogging. I wasn't podcasting at that point. So, yeah, I just shut down. I lost my love for it, really, I think. And, yeah, ever since then, I've been very, you know, obviously I ended up going to see someone about my anxiety. It got so bad that I missed out on some really good opportunities, and I wasn't even saying no to these opportunities. I was so struck with anxiety that I could not even reply to their emails. You know, it was that bad. It was really sad. And actually, I actually did a project that was published in a book around that time, I think probably about 5 years ago. And by the time the book came out, I was so done that I don't think I blogged about that book. I don't think I even shared it on Instagram or my social media. I think I just put it away in the shelf and tried to forget about it. That's really sad, isn't it? Actually, I came across it the other day. Just wait a minute, I'll grab it. Here we are. Let's give it its moment because, you know, it did deserve it. So this was the book, Craft Bomb Your Bike. And it was a collaboration between lots of, I think they were mostly bloggers at the time. It was around people's love of their bikes, really. So it wasn't just crochet, there was crochet knit. Here we go, look, here's a lovely, that's beautiful. Who's that by? Cara Midas. There were fabric projects. And And I actually put 2 projects to this book. The photographs aren't really that clear. Here's the first one. I've got some wrist warmers. I really love that pattern as well. Really like those. And then I also made a set of leg warmers. And actually, I think I really liked this project. You know, this was one of the books that really they let you choose what you wanted to design. So it, you know, it wasn't me, but and there are the leg warmers. Look. Okay, can you see that? Oh look, there's my name. So it's really sad that I had got to a state where I could not celebrate my achievements, you know, and that is a big achievement, isn't it, to have your designs picked for a book. So anyway, I'm very cautious about what I take on. I do things for magazines. Mostly if they ask. I tend not to answer calls for submissions because I am very much, I feel like, a maker before I'm a designer. I do consider myself a maker blogger. I like to make things in the moment, share them, and then if people like them, I'll write up the patterns. It's that simple. I'm not very good at thinking in advance. And when you design for the magazines, you have to be thinking about Christmas in May. So, you know, it's a special state of mind. I don't have that ability. So yeah, I thought, no, I can't do this. That's going to be four months worth of work, and I don't want to put myself into that pressure. I'm just going to stop and restart because the camera's flashing at me. Right, where was I? Yes. So my initial thought is, no, I can't do that. I don't think I can do that. Anyway, I opened up to them about my concerns about deadlines, and they were so good. We negotiated a deadline that I was happy with. You know, one that meant that I would not be under too much pressure. I think that's the thing. So, because my fear was that I could do it. I knew I could do it really, but that by the end of it, I would be so worn out and so stressed out that I would just shut down again. And I never ever want to get back to that place, you know. So they were lovely. We negotiated a deadline that I was happy with. And then I thought to myself, well, the only thing that's stopping me from doing that now is fear. And, you know, you can't let fear hold you back, can you? And I did make a decision, you know, at the new year to be braver in my choices and you know, open myself up to more opportunities. So I went to Unravel and met some lovely Insta friends. I even went and gave blood and did my girls camping trip. So I slowly, I wouldn't say I want to push myself, but I just wanted to be able to grow at my own pace. I think that's the thing. So yeah, I said yes. I don't know why that was such a long story. But I think I said yes. And so since I think the yarn arrived, I did all the sketches, and, you know, I've had pattern books. Every year I start a new pattern book and I sketch, and I had a lot of patterns already that had never been realised. So I sent sketches over and we went back and forth, and I started making the projects I think about the beginning of May. So, and I'm nearly there. I've got two more patterns to make and write up and chart, and they've been lovely. They let me pick my own technical editor. So again, you know, this is all new to me. I reached out to someone that I knew, and she recommended a lady, and she has been wonderful. She is she's just been so lovely to work with and really put my mind at rest. So I've really enjoyed working with her, and it's been such a learning curve, I won't lie. For one, I don't think I've ever crocheted so much in my life. For two, it's just, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about pattern writing, charts, sizing, all sorts of things, you know, And I'm really happy that I took the leap really and made that decision to go forward, because I think, you know, yeah, fear will hold you back. I mean, you know, I feel like my fears were, you know, they weren't irrational fears. You know, I was ill, and you know, that book that I showed you was written in 2014. So we're talking 5 years ago, you know, and I've had a long, you know, a long period where I felt fine, you know, so I do feel I'm ready to take on those challenges now. But I think it does help to be open about your concerns, especially when it comes to your mental health. And, you know, if you do feel that way and you feel like you're at the point where you're just going to shut down, you know, reach out to people, because you know, I've spoke to people on Instagram. I speak to my family about it all the time. You know, they know the sorts of situations where I feel under stress. You know, they're aware of that, and you know, it's okay to ask, you know, for help or extra time, or, you know, sometimes it's just enough to speak to someone else. So I think, yeah, it's, you know, it's a positive story. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh dear. So yes, I've been working away on this book. It will not be released until the new year, and I can't share anything. So although I have made and designed and made and written up over 20 items, I have nothing to show. So I think, you know, if you like the things I make and you like my style, then you will, you know, there will be something in the book for you. If you don't, you know, it might not be for you. That's fine, isn't it? There are crochet books and patterns to suit every sort of maker. So, but I do hope you love it. And obviously, you know, after Christmas, when I'm able to share a bit more, I will share as much as I can with you. So that is the reason. That, yeah, I've been absent. I haven't been able to keep up with podcasts, comments, Instagram, and I'm really missing it. I'm really missing the interaction. I'm particularly missing the podcast, because I think that's one of the more positive things that I've done, and yeah, I miss hearing what you're all up to. So let me know in the comments what you're making. What are you making for autumn? Have you all started working with your chunky yarns? And I really want to make some autumnal things, but I'm still here working with cotton. So I do feel like I'm missing out a bit. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it, really. I think no matter what, I will be proud of the book and the work that's gone into it. And, you know, I am at a point where I try not to compare myself anymore to anyone else, to what anyone else is doing. And that's really helped as well, you know. So, yeah, I do feel proud that I took the plunge, and it will be really nice to see it all come together, because I'm also doing all the photography for the book. So there are lots of things going on, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Anyway, I will move on and show you some new yarn. I haven't bought any new yarn, but a while ago, and I think we're going back to Easter here, I was sent a box of yarn. And what happened was, one of my lovely Insta friends, Hurrem, her name is, I think that's how you pronounce it, she's from Turkey, and she was trying to purchase one of my patterns, and she was having trouble with PayPal. I don't know if that's something to do with Turkey and PayPal, or I can't remember, to be honest, it was a while ago. And she was having trouble, and she sort of said, is there any other way I can purchase this pattern? And of course, you know, wherever you sell your patterns, LoveCrafts, Etsy, it all goes through PayPal, and I couldn't really figure out a different way to do it. So I just said, look, send me your email address and I'll send you the pattern. And she said, well, okay, well, I would love to send you some of this Turkish wool for you to have a look at. You know, it's some of my favourite yarns. So I said, okay, but please don't go to any expense. Anyway, you should see what arrived. I got, here we go, this in the post. She's very naughty, but very lovely at the same time. She, very sweet. But look, I'll show you some of the things she sent. Look at that. I love that. A little crochet gingerbread man. I think what I'm going to do is attach some string to that and put that on my Christmas tree this year. And then I'll be able to think about her whenever I look at it. And then there was a little, it's like a notions pouch or a pencil case. Oh, look at that. Is that a little Yorkshire Terrier? I love that. And there were some chocolates as well, but we ate those. A postcard from Istanbul. Lovely. And there's her little card. Look, actually this is her, oh, did I say I'll put her Instagram name up because she makes the most beautiful things. Okay, there's her card. That's her Instagram profile picture as well. I think that must be her. Beautiful. Oh, and there's a little bar of soap in there as well. I'm not sure what that means. That's nice. I like soap. I've moved over to using soap again to try and reduce my plastic, but I like soap anyway, to be honest with you. So this must be the brand I think that she wanted me to try. There we go. Please don't ask me to pronounce it. Okay, I'll have a go. It's Katupu. I think Katupu, but maybe not. Katupo? I don't know. Anyway, this is beautiful. What is this? Oh, this is 77% acrylic, 20% wool and 3% viscose. This is the softest wool ever. Ah, beautiful. It's a little bit furry, can you see? And the colour. Now, this is the sort of yarn that I want to be working with right now. But I'm still going to have to wait. And then there's another one. This one's called Cozy Wool. It's that same brand. And this is a really nice shade of cream. This one, I think you could probably see on the camera, it's pulling towards the blush creams. So there's no yellow in that at all. I love that. And then what else have we got? Some Lula Baby. That's really pretty as well. Look at those colours. Oh, some sock yarn. Well, this feels a bit more like wool. What's this? 75% SW wool, 25% polyamide. Look at those socks. Oh, they look great, don't they? I do think this yarn works so much better in knitted socks, so I might save that for when my knitting's up to par. Again, I have not progressed in my knitting at all since earlier on in the year. This is Cozy Wool Sport Prints. I love the shades of this. There we go. That's lovely. And what's that? That's 75% acrylic, 25% wool. These yarns are really soft. What else have we got in here? Some, I'm not sure if this is Turkey. This says Nako Paris. Oh, it's so soft. What's this? This is 60% polyamide and 40% premium acrylic. Oh no, it says made in Turkey. Oh wow. Now that is lovely. Can you imagine a jumper in that? That's nice. And then some cotton, some little balls of cotton. These are, the colours are really nice. This is organic, 100% organic cotton. It's starting to come unravelled a bit there. I love that. And then lastly, this is beautiful as well. Now this says Etrofil, hand knitting yarns designed in Italy, baby cashmere. Ooh, ah, that's nice. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Now this is the softest. Oh gosh, this is beautiful. And look at those colours. Oh, I love that. Anyway, thank you so much, Haram, if you're watching. I've already thanked her, but it was above and beyond. Very, very generous. And it's really nice to be able to, you know, have a look at some yarns from other countries. So I always look at yarns in other countries and think, oh, they've got so much more selection than we have. But then I often get emails saying the same thing. So I guess you always want what you don't have. And that's it really, yarny sort of things. I've got a couple of books to talk to you about. And then that's about it really. So just crack on a bit of a roll today. This is The Birth House by Amy McKay. I did talk about this, I think, in the last podcast. The sun's just come out and it's, I hope I'm not washed out. I prefer this book. I really, really liked her, The Witches of New York, which is why I went to see what else she'd written, and I grabbed this on eBay. And I actually prefer this. I mean, I really loved this book. So she's a Canadian writer, and this book is based in a small village in Nova Scotia around the First World War. And it tells a tale of a young girl called Dora Rare. And she becomes basically an apprentice midwife, and she's apprenticed to the local midwife who is getting on in her years, and she's considered, I suppose, a bit on the outskirts of society, a bit of a sort of wise woman, but everyone goes to her when they have their babies, and a new hospital opens up in the sort of district, and the doctor there is trying to get all the women to go into town to have their babies. Of course, when they get there, they realise that it's quite a, you know, it's quite a different experience than having your baby in your own bed, surrounded by your family, and it becomes quite a male-dominated field. And I think that's, you know, actually, if you think about midwifery these days, I would consider it to be quite a female profession. But I think when medicine became a sort of science, men took the reins and, you know, really tried to push aside the women. And yeah, I suppose this is what this book is about, is that, you know, sort of for hundreds of years they'd had local midwives and they'd imparted knowledge, and then suddenly it was all sort of seen as well, sort of witchcraft and things like that. So anyway, this is what she's sort of fighting against, and there are some really lovely stories of childbirth. There are some disheartening stories. It's really you know, the tale of a really small sort of island village that is slowly having to open its doors to the sort of new era and new way of life. So, and they're trying desperately to sort of hold on to their old practices. It's really, really beautiful. And I'll just show you this actually. It was funny because at the beginning of summer I took the girls over to the book barn, and it's a big warehouse and they sell second-hand books. You can get a pound a book. So we went over there and they had a whole wall display of, oh, I've dropped it, things that are found inside books. And there were letters and postcards and photos, all sorts of things, handkerchiefs. And I really loved it because I am that person. I shove things inside of books when I'm finished. So I put birthday cards, Christmas cards, postcards, little drawings that children have made me, and I slip them in a book and I pop them on the shelf. And, you know, I do quite often reread books. So when I open them, I always just get like a little treat. It's like sending yourself a little memento. Anyway, in this book, hang on. Oh, like I said, this was secondhand. I got it on eBay, and there was this inside of it. It's just a photograph. I've nearly dropped it again. It's just a photograph of someone's garden. Let me show you. It's this little proper little English garden there by the looks of it. Can you see? It's obviously not very old because this is printed on photo paper. Look at that, it's like a little secret garden. How lovely is that? Someone was obviously using that as a bookmark. Oh, I love that. Anyway, so I'm going to keep that in the book, and then the next person that gets it can have a look at that as well. So yeah, so anyway, where was I? So on holiday I read 2 books. I read this one. This is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Here we go. I really enjoyed this. This is the story of a Hollywood actress. She's at the end of her life. She's at the end of her years. She's in her late 80s, I think, and she was a mega star, a Hollywood royalty really, and she was notorious for having had 7 husbands. And of course people have been curious as to who the love of her life was, why she had so many husbands, and she decides to tell her story to a young writer, and nobody knows why she's picked this writer. She basically says it's you or no one. It's really, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't read it, but I'll tell you that none of those 7 husbands were the love of her life. It's really good. I suppose it's a tale of someone having to hide who they truly are, you know, and she's quite lucky. She's very privileged. She has a lot of choices, you know, but in some ways it's never good to hide who you really are, is it? So anyway, that's a really good story. I really liked that. And then oddly, these books, although completely different, they had this similar theme running through them. So this is The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sarah, I think that's Sarah Collins. Okay. I read this one on holiday as well. This one's quite a dark book. It's, when is it set? 1826. There we go. Franny is on trial for the murder of her employers. She has been, I think, a lady's maid. And it starts off with her childhood on a plantation in Jamaica where she has been enslaved since birth. And she doesn't know who her mother is, she doesn't know who her father is, but she ends up working at the main house. So she's been kind of favoured. And her mistress teaches her to read. They sort of use her as a bit of a social experiment, really. Sometimes it's very hard to read in certain places. It's not nice at all. He's not a very nice man, the master, and he eventually travels to England with her and just drops her off at a house and almost gives her as a gift. And, you know, although she's been enslaved all those years, she sort of loves him, so it's quite hard for her. Anyway, she develops a bond with her new mistress, and yeah, eventually the mistress and the master end up dead, and she's sort of talking through what happened, and looking back, it's hard to read, but I think any book around that subject is often hard to read, but it's very good. And like I said, there is a similar theme running through both books. I mean, the difference is that Franny has no choices, no options, no privilege, you know, absolutely none, whereas Evelyn had the luxury of money, the privilege, even just of her skin colour, you know, to make choices. So yeah. Anyway, it's worth a read, but I will warn you, it's quite dark in certain places. And then the last one, and oh, my camera is flashing at me again. Just a minute. So where were we? I do feel like the lights. I've lost the light now. I'll keep going. I've nearly finished. The last one is The Silence of the Girls. I think I might have spoke about this already. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe on my Instagram. I think I put something on Instagram. Anyway, The Silence of the Girls. This one's by Pat Barker. This is one of the tales of the Iliad, and it's about really the fall of Troy through the eyes of the women. Briseis in particular. So when Achilles went in, he sacked their their village. I think she was pretty much royalty, and she ends up being enslaved to him. And, you know, these women are just passed around like trophies, and yeah, it's quite... But it's about their life down on the camp as they prepare to take Troy. So, yeah, it's hard, really. I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading about it from a female perspective and how, you know, they had to adjust to their new way of life. And, you know, obviously she develops an attachment to Achilles, even though, yeah, you know, he was responsible for killing nearly everyone in her village, including her family. Yeah, it must have been hard. I really, really like that. It also focuses on, you know, Achilles' relationship with his mother, who was, I think was she half god? She was a sea god, maybe half god. Quite complicated, because I think he got to a certain age and she just ran off really back to the sea because she couldn't take it. So I think he's got quite a complicated relationship with her. Really, really good. I loved it. And that's it for books. What have we been watching on the TV? We watched... we did watch 2 really good things on Netflix. The first one was The Spy, and that's got Sacha... Is it Baron Cohen? No, I'll write it along here. He used to play Ali G, if you remember that, in the UK. He's so good in it. It's he is sent to Syria as a spy, and he I think he was hired by, is it Mossad, and he goes over there. He does such a good job that they end up wanting to give him the role of Ministry of Defence over in Syria. And, you know, so he's undercover the whole time. So he's sort of masquerading as a businessman with loads of money. And, you know, all the while he's feeding back to Israel. I think it's Israel. Ugh, my geography is not so good. Anyway, it's really, really good, because it also shows the relationship he had with his wife. Now, obviously, he could not be coming home at the weekends. He really had to live that life. And, you know, I think I read up on it afterwards, because it's based on a true story. He saw his wife, I think, maybe 3 or 4 times in the 5 years that he was working undercover in Syria. And so she was left at home with, you know, 3 children, and she did not know what he was doing. Obviously, no one was allowed to know. So it really shows the struggles. Like, he's living in Syria as a really wealthy businessman, but obviously he's putting his life at risk every day. And she's at home and she's struggling to pay the bills and juggle her children. It almost doesn't seem like fair. It's so good. It's really good. So yeah, we really enjoyed that. And then we've just finished watching Unbelievable on Netflix, and that's quite hard to watch as well at the beginning. It starts with a teenage girl. She's 18. She's living in a sort of a community for people that have been through the system and are transitioning into independent living, basically. And it starts with her being raped in her bed. You know, she wakes up and there's an attacker at the end of her bed. And you don't get to see too much of that, although what you do see is disturbing enough. But what I think is more disturbing is the way that she is treated afterwards. And you can almost see where it's going, because, you know, straight away she's the first officer on the scene is a man. He makes her tell everything. And then the detectives arrive, 2 male detectives. They then make her repeat everything. And she's clearly traumatised. And then she has to go in and give a statement again. And she keeps saying, but I've already told you, but I've already told... We just need to hear it again. And never once in this process is there a female. It's quite shocking, really. And you can see how the story starts to turn, because, you know, she's not really given any counselling or... and her story starts to change slightly. Little things. I mean, bearing in mind she was blindfolded, and, you know, they will say, well, you said last week that his jumper was grey and now you're saying it's black. You know, they're trying to permanently put holes in her story until eventually she starts to sort of go, well, yeah, you know, they're sort of leading her, saying, you know, if you've made this up, we can see how that would happen. You know, you've been through a lot, and you know, if you've made this up, it's better to tell us now, and you can just, that'll be it. You can go on your way, and that'll be it. And she's sort of thinking, well, I just want to go home. I've had enough. I just want to go home. So she's sort of, well, yeah, maybe I dreamt it, or maybe maybe it was a bad dream sort of thing. And eventually they twist it. They clearly don't believe it. They make her basically say that it never happened. It wasn't even a dream. She did not nearly imagine. It never happened. And, you know, you can imagine the consequences for her, because obviously she loses her place in the community that she's been living. She loses her job. She loses her friendship group. Basically, yeah, you can just see her spiraling downward. Anyway, all the time this is going on, in another state, a similar attack has happened, and also in another state, a similar attack has happened, and the two lead detectives on these other cases are female, and they sort of put it together that they might be looking for the same person. So you know that she wasn't lying, and you know, and they're working together to try and catch this person. But yeah, it's you know, in some bits it's quite, so I think it's so well done. I think it's very considerate. It's, yeah, and you can really see the contrast between the way the women detectives deal with the victims and the way these men, and I'm not saying that all men are like that, absolutely not, but in this case, in this program, that's what happens, you know. And I think, you know, in that situation, really, she should have had access to females. I mean, it's fiction, so it's not the end of the world, but it's, yeah, it's quite hard to watch in certain places. So, but really good, and Rob enjoyed it as well, so we watched that together. And that is it, really. What else? Oh, I finished watching Peaky Blinders. I do love Peaky Blinders, but it wasn't my favourite season, to be honest with you. I was a little bit disappointed. And that's it. So I think I'm going to go. I've had to stop the camera twice now, so I know I've been talking for a long time. I'll have to try and get this edited and put up for you. I'll try and do a blog post with all the links, although there won't be many because I haven't mentioned that much. So if I don't get around to doing it, I'll just pop the links below. And that's it. I probably won't see you again for another couple of weeks. Like I said, my deadline is fast approaching, so once that's done and sent off, I will be able to get back to podcasting regularly and talking to you all again. So let me know what you're working on, what have you been up to, and I hope to see you all again soon. Take care. Bye.